Ron Bell, Chief Director, Legislation, who is sitting at my right-hand side. Mr. Patrick Mashibini, the Chief Director, Corporate Services, who is sitting here. Mr. Philip Mahlangu, who is sitting here in front of me, who is the Acting Chief Director, Intersectoral Coordination and Strategic Partnerships. And we have Luyanda. See, my clicks, because I come from the furthest north of this country, it becomes very difficult. Comfo, Acting Chief Director, Civilian Oversight, Monitoring and Evaluation, where is the East there. I've got Alfred Mudau, who is the Director, Internal Audit and Risk Management, and there is that side. I've already introduced Willem Bassen, who is sitting next to me, who will be leading the presentation. I've got Hendrik Robertse, who is the acting CFO, who is sitting here. Mr. Melusi Nyati, Office Manager, who will be doing the pressing. And the last but not the least person is Mr. Samson Mahote, who is our parliamentary liaison officer, who is our eyes and ears, who is our conduit to the portfolio committee. And he's right behind me. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Mahote. Yeah, Mr. Basson.
Thank you very much, Acting Director, Secretary. Mr. Basson, you can start. You're welcome.
Thank you, Secretary, and thank you, Chairperson, and good afternoon, honourable members. Our second slide is just a background to indicate what we are going to cover. So we are going to cover April 2015 to June 2015, and then we'll go through service delivery, environment, organizational environment, governance, status of the Secretariat, and a breakdown of the expenditure during the first quarter of 15-16. Next slide refers to the heading service delivery environment. The Afrophobic attacks on African foreign nationals made a huge impact on the Secretariat's activities during the first quarter. The Secretariat convened interventions in the form of awareness programs to minimize these violent attacks. Now, communications and the intersectoral coordination and strategic partnership programs played a key role that involved communities in the minimizing of these violent attacks. These interventions were not planned in the APP and caused a huge expenditure pattern during the first quarter of 2015-16. And it was, in fact, called One Humanity Project, which will be ongoing given the nature of the unfolding social dynamics. The next slide refers to the organizational environment. The Secretariat filled 107 of its 118 funded posts. These posts are 83% that were filled in line with the approved establishment. Critical posts that are still vacant are the Secretary of Police, because we have the Acting Secretary, Chief Financial Officer, Chief Director Monitoring and Evaluation, and Director IT. Just to point out on this particular point, the Director IT is the one vacant post here where we don't have an acting person. All these posts were advertised and HR processes are underway to appoint. Slide 5 refers to the gender breakdown. As you can see here, a chairperson, with your permission, do we spend some time here, or can you? Thanks a lot, sir. Slide 6 refers to governance. What we have currently with regard to good governance is we have an approved 3-year internal audit strategy and operational plan. We also have an approved audit committee charter. We also have in place an approved internal audit charter. In the first quarter, there was an audit committee meeting held to provide oversight role over organizational performance. And also in the first quarter, a risk management committee was held to provide oversight on progress on enterprise risk management system, including departmental risk registers. The status of the Secretariat in the first quarter. The Secretariat successfully implemented its own virtual private network system and are functional with regard to financial and personal systems like your email and internet. Although we have in the last 2 weeks experienced a bit of challenges around the email system, but it is working. The Secretariat is not in a position to implement electronic supply chain systems logos due to the shortage of staff in terms of segregation of duties, which is a risk with regard to BES and PERCEL. The third bullet refers to the One Humanity campaign initiated due to the xenophobic attacks in April and May 2015, contributed towards higher than anticipated spending in Program 2, which is called the Intersectoral Coordination and Strategic Partnerships. And we have the Acting Chief Director here today. I can explain that later. Slide 8 is the Intersectoral Coordination and Strategic Partnerships. Slide 9, their achievements. So 12, these achievements are part of your APP performance indicators. So it is put here as in a bullet form, and then on page 10, we basically, that is a tick box referring to the APP. But on slide 9, it says that we have 12 community safety forums evaluated. They had also 5 police stations that were implementing school safety protocol assessed. We have also 22 community police forums assessed. The establishment of Stakeholders Committee and Task Team on Rural Safety in partnership with the Gauteng Department of Community Safety and the Gauteng Department of Agriculture. They also had engagement with academic institution, Tshwane University of Technology, on implementation of safety and security measures for students. And then a number of provinces implementing CPF's guidelines were also achieved. We can skip slide 10 if you're comfortable, Chair, and move to the, because it's basically what was written on the page 9, the key achievements. Then we move to page 12, and that is going to cover the sub-program policy development and research. The white paper on safety and security was developed and advertised for public comments, and comments are being made into the document now. And then the resource center quarterly report has been finalized. Slide 15, it is covering the sub-program legislation. The Firearms Control Amendment Bill, the bill was published in the Gazette for public comment in March 2015, and comments were collated and analyzed in May 2015. The bill has been revised based on comments received from the public, and the bill will be submitted to Cabinet Committee for approval for tabling in Parliament. It is also mentioned
Mr. Besson, sorry, that is patently incorrect.
Chair, by the time that we in fact compiled this, this was written, but there is a change to it, and the Advocate Bell from the legislation will explain that. Okay? The same in fact will apply to the next point, because the Critical Infrastructure Protection Bill was consulted upon with various relevant departments and stakeholders, and the bill has been revised based on comments from the Cabinet Committee, the Office of the State Law Advisor, relevant departments and stakeholders. And Advocate Bell will also further explain that the bill was supposed to be submitted to a Cabinet Committee in 2011, in July in 2015. But she will also explain that. The Protection of Constitutional Democracy Bill on the next slide, Against Terrorists and Related Activities Bill. The bill has been consulted by relevant departments A draft bill has been prepared. Further way that has been forward on this bill is dependent on the civil application that has been launched by Mr. Oka, who had been prosecuted for terrorism, in which application he attacks a number of relevant constitutional issues in the Protection of Constitutional Democracy Against Terrorists and Related Activities Act of 2004 as a result of the court abeyance until the court matter has been finalized. And like I mentioned earlier, that Advocate Bell will explain those more. We can move to Civilian Oversight, Monitoring and Evaluation on page 19.
We must first stop at 17.
Okay.
Because it affects the committee's program. So please deal with it.
Chair, do I hand over to 17. Page
17.
Page 17.
You can continue, thanks.
Okay. Do I continue with the presentation? Okay. So we are back at page 19.
Oh, first to 17.
Oh, 17.
Yeah.
Okay, Advocate Bell.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, with regards to the Firearms Control Amendment Bill, the bill was tabled for, was on the agenda for tabling. There was a workshop that we held with the Minister on the 5th of June in Cape Town, and at that, the outcome of that workshop was that not to proceed with the tabling of the bill to allow for further research to be done on the firearms control. And then later on to brief the Minister and to await for his decision on how to proceed. The bill's been drafted, it's ready, so we're just waiting for the go-ahead from the Minister. There is a task team that I believe has been set up that's dealing with certain issues, and we'll be ready soon to come to Parliament with that. With regards to the Critical Infrastructure Bill, the bill has been to the JCPS CAB Committee 3 times. And on each occasion, we were asked to either strengthen it or to refine the bill. And on the last occasion, which was the 6th of August, unfortunately, the day after that, we got the preliminary certification from the state law advisors advising that the bill is constitutional. However, we are busy with the comments and the recommendations that were made by the CAB Committee. In fact, they said that before we come back to them, we must meet with certain members from the JCPS CAB Committee, and we came to Cape Town to do that last week, but that wasn't possible, so that's where we are at the moment with that. And then with regard to the final one that Mr. Basson spoke on, the Protection of Constitutional Democracy Against Terrorists and Related Activities Amendment Bill, that bill is ready. We are ready to come to Parliament with that, to Cabinet with that, but because of this, we were advised by SABC Legal that there's been an application by Mr. Oka that might affect the bill. So instead of making amendments later on, we'll wait and see what the outcome of that court process is. Thank you, sir.
So, in effect, we're going to deal with these bills next year. Is that what you're saying?
Hopefully not, especially with the firearms and the critical infrastructure bill.
6 weeks left till the end of the year. In October, we've got 6 weeks. Yeah. So, I just want to get the indication.
In that case, then it seems that yes. Yes, because there's still the process of advertising it for public comment. So yes, it seems that's going to be the case.
Right, you can continue, Mr. Basson. Thank you.
Thanks, Honourable Chair. Then we move to Programme Surveillance Oversight, Monitoring and Evaluation on page 19. 4 police station oversight visits were conducted. 4 oversight visit reports were produced. And 1 audit report relating to Domestic Violence Act was finalized. and that is indicated on page 20. Then on page 21, 22, the financial administration and expenditure notes on page 22. Expenditure up to June 2015 is standing at 32%, 6%. On a straight line projection, the ideal spending percentage would have been around 25%. The Secretariat is overspending with around 7.6 in this particular quarter, translated into budget more or less 7.9 million. Bullet point number 2, if a comparison is made between actual expenditure versus actual drawings, the Secretariat has spent 9.2 million more than its envisaged spending, which is 8.8% of the total budget. Bullet 3, compensation of employees is at 25.7% spending overall, and the main reason is the higher than anticipated annual cost of living salary adjustment. The last bullet says the overspending in the Secretariat is mainly due to the additional costs related to the community outreach programs after the xenophobic attacks, which could be regarded as unforeseen and unavoidable expenditure. And then on page 23 is a quarterly breakdown of expenditure. And on page 24 is a quarterly breakdown of expenditure per economic classification. And the acting CFO will be able to take questions around the expenditure notes and patterns. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Thank you for the Secretariat for the presentation. We will now give an opportunity to members for questions. Honourable Mbele.
Thank you, Chairperson. Just one question at this stage, because I recall that when last we engaged with the Secretariat in April, they had to re-advertise for the CFO position because the shortlisted candidates from the previous recruitment round were assessed to be inadequate. So it's a bit concerning to find that the CFO position is still one of the vacant ones, in particular because the Secretariat should be preparing for the commencement of it being a designated department receiving funds from a parliamentary vote next year. So I would hope that the budget planning for that has already started now. So in light of that CFO position not being filled, firstly, can I just get an indication of when they expect the finalization of that appointment process might be done? And if they're encountering the same challenges as with the previous round, where all the shortlisted candidates were still assessed to be inadequate, and then parallel to that, if they're not going to be able to fill the CFO position, are the other aspects of the organization starting to work on the budget planning so that come next year there's a properly costed budget for the Civilian Secretariat to meet its mandates for the following financial year, so that from the committee side we can very vigorously motivate for the adoption of the optimal resources that the department would need. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe two from my side and then Honourable Malabatsi and Mamula. In terms of your outreach program, you only, of the sub-program, you only spend 3%. But on the other hand, you're saying in terms of the xenophobic things you had to overspend. Can you please explain that? And then your goods and services, you were supposed to spend about 23.1, but you spent about 47% by the end of June, with 3/4 of the year still. So what did you buy? You know, what was the need for that increased expenditure? Honourable Malabatsi.
Thank you, Chairperson. I also had this question on xenophobic attacks, the overspending. But now my other question is your top management now vetted? My next one is, you had a problem in the past, there was this problem of handling of DVA cases. Has the situation improved? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honourable Mamula.
Thank you, Chairperson. In slide 5 on gender breakdown, employees with disability is 0. Why? It is 0. In slide 10, 2 provinces implemented CPF guidelines. What about the 7 provinces? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Mamula. Other members on this issue? Maybe just office accommodation. I don't see there was any expenditure. What is the plans? Are you still accommodated by SABC? If we can get an indication. Honourable Marke.
Thank you, Chairperson. Just a matter of interest. The post of CFO, according to me, it's very critical. But I've realized that in most institutions and departments or whatever, there's always a problem in filling that post, that crucial post. Would the problem be that the qualifications or the requirements are too high? Or would it be that people are afraid of handling money? Or one other question, is it, who determines? Is it the public service that determines the level or the qualifications that are needed? Or would it be the Secretariat itself that would determine for this the requirements for this post? Thank you, Chairperson.
Right. I just want to have 3 financial questions. There's a significant over-expenditure on contractors and also venues and facilities. What was the reason? And then can the committee maybe get the comprehensive list, not today, but during the next week and this week, of the consultants and contractors employed by the department? And why was there not any spending on computer services? What is the reason for that? And now, in terms of planning, if you spend all your advertising money in the first quarter, say for instance there's now an urgent new development in your environment, say in October, November, December, how are you going to deal with that? Will you be able to meet your objectives? Honourable Mhlongo.
Yeah, no, thanks, Mr. Chairperson. I think, Mr. Chairperson, it will be from my side if I've read this report. I think it will be advisable to the leadership of IPID in future just to...
Sorry, it's a Secretariat, Civilian Secretariat.
Oh, no.
Yes. IPID is in the next round.
Yes. For example, how do you... Because if you look at the statistics, 5 stations. I think we've got a number, hundreds of police stations. Now, what clicks to my mind is I don't understand whether is it a central organ that does this part of work, or it has got some divisions at provincial levels. Because if it is like that, to me, it will indicate that there is a great deal of poor performance by the organ itself. So I'm raising that, Chairperson, because the report doesn't necessarily put to us to say, for example, as they were dealing with xenophobic issues in Gauteng, is it a central organ or maybe the organ up there? And what about other provinces? Otherwise, we will actually then be talking about rands and cents, but with no visible outcome. Which means then you might be pouring money, whereby then you have got no value for money at all. Thank you very much. So that is my main concern, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honourable Mhlongo. Any other members? So let's go to the acting secretary and his team for responses.
Okay, thanks, Chairperson. I will deal with the issue of the CFO, the process of filling that position, because it's one of the issues that when I got into the department, the minister emphasized this. It's in the process. And they said discussion to handle the issue because, as you said, the first advertising and the process of recruitment didn't yield any good candidates. So we are in a process of addressing that in line with the Public Service Act to fast track the process. It's an issue that when I saw, I realized that I'm really going to be exposed if I don't have that CFO in place, but the minister is addressing this together with myself. I think that next time we come here, we can give you a concrete answer to say this is how it's going to be resolved. We would like to resolve it by the end of this month, if possible. And on the issue of the job requirement for the position, National Treasury, together with the Department of Public Service and Administration, they actually determine in terms of what should be the requirement for the job. And there's no way that you can, as the Secretariat, put our own requirements, which is less than what National Treasury requires, because we will find ourselves wanting. We have to make sure that those minimum requirements, the people we appoint, they do meet that. I will ask my team here to respond. It might not be in the order that you have asked. I still don't know who is doing what. So what I will do is I will just start with our head of corporate services. He can deal with other aspects which have raised, and then each one will follow according to the questions that have been raised. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretary. Good afternoon, honorable members. With regard to the question that was raised by Honorable Chairperson first, in terms of the office accommodation, I can confidently report that we were supposed by the 1st of August to have relocated to the new building. But due to the challenges that the Public Works experienced with people who applied for that bid, the process had to be postponed. I was reliably told last week by Public Works that they are supposed to be meeting with the evaluation committee, probably this week, if not next week. And then as soon as they have made their final decision, we'll be informed about the movement to the new offices. I need to indicate that in that regard, Chair, there were 3 bidders who applied, one being in Brook Lane, another one being in the city itself, and another one in Field Lane. Regarding the question that was asked by Honorable Muller with regard to the 0 numbers of officials who are physically disadvantaged, it is basically that reason that made us actually to move out of the building. The building in itself is not user-friendly for physically challenged people. And I need to indicate that it is one of the intentions of management that as soon as we relocate, our priority is going to be on those physically disabled people. Regarding the issue of vetting of management, Chair, I can confidently report that since the last time that we met here, 100% of senior managers did go through the vetting, and we are only waiting now for security certificates from SSA. All of them have been vetted. Thanks, Chair.
The new acting secretary, what's his status?
We are currently busy with the, yes. Thanks, Chair.
The next respond, I think the acting CFO will deal with the financial issues.
Thank you, Chair. The first question I'll respond to is about the budget planning and next year being on our own as a department. The department has gone through the whole budget process as prescribed. We did submit our MTF input. We are part of the MTC committee meetings at National Treasury on our own, doing our own presentations. We've also, in the last 2 weeks or so, submitted a consolidated request for additional funding for not only the National Secretariat but also the secretariats in the provinces, to make sure that we all get our budgets aligned so that the Act can be implemented in full, not only on national but also on provincial level. On the expenditure specifically, the overspending that is shown on all the programs mainly has to do with, first of all, the fact that a lot of our payments did not realize in March when we were busy with the move away from SABS onto our own system. So our accruals were a bit high that we brought over to the new financial year, which it was also reported as such to the Auditor General in our financial statements, which we will present a bit later in the month or in October in our annual report. The second thing is the xenophobia attacks and all the things that the department had to do around that. And that's also why there's such high spending on venues and facilities, advertising, transport for public events, catering, contractors who organize these events. Because what the department had to do was arrange a lot of imbizos and meetings with various role players in those communities to make sure that people are reached and this whole issue is addressed. I'm sure Mr. Maslangu will be in a better position to explain exactly what they did there. I only deal with the finance part to pay all those things, and that's the high expenditure. We did submit unforeseen and unavoidable memorandum to MinCombat, which I'm not sure when they will sit. I think it's next week sometime. So hopefully that money will be given to the department, because we did not make provision for that. And the amount is around 8 to 9 million rand that we've spent as a department only on those issues. The question around the computer services, the reason why we haven't had any expenditure in the first 3 months is a delay in the receiving of invoices from SITA, but we have received them since the July, August, and we've started paying on computer services as a service from SITA. I don't know if I missed something. Doesn't look like it. Yeah, another thing that I can just add, although it will also come out of our books, the first payments around the cases against the minister or between the minister and some of the heads like DPCI and IPID were paid by the department, but we did engage with the minister, and he's given approval that this expenditure will be recovered from SABS, because they have the budget for the legal fees, while we as a department do not have that large a budget.
Thank you. Mr. Mahlangu, would you like to?
Thanks, Mr. Secretary. Honorable Chair and members, 3 questions. The first one is, under normal circumstances, we had planned to do 2 public participation activities for the first quarter. So we then got diverted by the xenophobic activities. Secondly,
yeah, reprieve, hard sell-off, so some things became cheap and the bargain hunters stepped in and started buying. Also, China once more intervened in the market, the government there, tightening.
Was the 2 provinces had gone ahead and they provided report. But in the run of the process, we'll be able to report as to which provinces have assisted us in implementing and which provinces are left behind. I think that detailed report would then follow. The third one is in terms of the question of, as a national department, we deal with the whole country. But the question as to why we did in certain areas. Firstly, when the minister gave directive to us to deal with the questions around the xenophobic attacks, we identify 5 provinces, but we're also guided by the activities of those attacks. Started in KZN, then Gauteng, then partly in Mpumalanga, then to some of the areas in the Western Cape and so on and so forth. So we could not choose provinces, but we followed the activities or the happenings and dealt with issues in those provinces where there was these attacks happening. Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. On the Domestic Violence Act.
Thank you, Secretary. Good afternoon again, honorable members and honorable Chair. On the DVA matter, we can report that there is a progress that has been made. Different provinces submitted to the Treasury in terms of the additional requirements in terms of resources. As I've indicated in the last engagement, that the SOP was signed with the SABC, and from our side we have trained the provinces in terms of provincial secretariats. We have engaged with SABC. If you recall, one of the issues was the attendance in terms of the compliance forum, and that we can confirm that SABC have made commitment that the members will attend, those who were not attending. Promotional items have been made to all the provinces on the DVA, and that we have continuous discussions with the States SA in terms of future sampling strategy. We're working with them. I am told that SABC is beginning to visit other provinces like the Western Cape. If you remember, there was a progress in terms of the Western Cape on DVA. I'm told that some of the provinces are interacting in terms of the best practice within SABC's DVA matters. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Mulabatsi, follow up.
Thanks, Chair. Are you saying all the provinces do have provincial secretariat now?
Honorable Mavunda, you also your question?
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Chairperson. On page 19, this page is just an example of what I think the report, as I understand it to be, does not actually give the information which, as the portfolio committee members may want to make some follow-ups on. For instance, the first bulletin says 4 police station oversight visits conducted. Which police stations? And in which provinces? Or in which province? So what are the findings or challenges during the oversight? And what are the steps being prepared to respond to the challenges? And I think all what I have tried to ask is the information which, unless if the information is so within the classified, unless if that is the case. But I think we need to be privileged as portfolio committee members to know exactly what are the challenges which have been found during the oversight. So that is the question I wanted to ask, Chair, to say, are we not entitled to this information? Because it is so short that it's just a statement. It's not a report that which actually, as the portfolio committee members can say, we want to make a follow-up because you said in this report on this date you went for oversight and those are the challenges you came across. And these are the remedies which you are going to employ to actually try to solve the challenges. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Honourable Mulabatsi.
Thanks. You call 4 police stations, visiting 4 police stations an achievement. In 3 months, when we have more than 1,000 of police stations, I don't know, Chair, if it's really an achievement. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, Honourable Mhlongo, I must maybe also indicate the reason for variances that must be indicated in writing going forward. You know, blanks don't help us because it's part of the official record of the committee. Honourable Mhlongo?
No, thanks, Mr. Chair. No, Mr. Chairperson, you know, in terms of the mandate of the civilian police secretariat, I think we are not discussing, we are still asking questions, but I think it will have to be redefined because to me, this report, I've read it, I could not get anything relevant, really. I must be very honest. In fact, even the report from the police themselves, whom I believe my colleague, as he was talking about the classification of information, was quite much more informative than what I would believe civilian secretariat ought to be very close to communities in order to ensure that it helps us do our oversight work to uniform police. Otherwise, if it is like this, I must tell you, we cannot make any kind of tangible headways. My colleague is quite correct. If you say 4 police stations visited, where? What was achieved? Where are those police stations and all that? Then you are given then rands and cents of expenditure. It's even difficult to understand. Now, that is why then I asked the question, and which I think also my colleague on the other side asked. Does the National Secretariat depend on its own, or it gets a feed from the Provincial Secretariat? If so, I can tell you, you cannot have such figures in terms of work done, because every day work is being done in those provinces. Otherwise, if it is like this, is a very vague kind of an approach. To me, it doesn't give any sense of duty and responsibility, really. I must be very honest. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I've got just an additional question on page 7. The second bullet. It indicates that Secretariat is not in a position to implement electronic supply chain management system logis due to shortage of staff in terms of segregation of duties, which is a risk with regard to BAS and PERSOL. But, I mean, coming to the portfolio committee, you must give us a solution. How do you address that? You're stating now a problem, but there's no indication in the slide what are you actively doing to address it. Because it seems to me that the risk hasn't been addressed. So the question is, it raises questions. I mean, if it's an issue, what is your action plan to deal with it? So we need, yeah, Honourable Mabija.
Chairperson, what I'm observing here is that members are highly dissatisfied concerning the report. So I will just request the chairperson to support me when I say I should think the Civilian Secretariat should go and compile a report that will meet our needs. And we just close it there because it has got a lot of weaknesses, this thing. That's my proposal.
Honourable Markey.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm not sure whether I would be right by saying maybe we needed a performance report that goes along with this. Because as it is, well, I wouldn't have a problem if it's this way, if I could refer to the performance report, because that would explain what police station, what date, and so on. But without an accompanying performance report, it really, it's lacking. I wouldn't have a problem with visiting 4 police stations because I would have to check or how many police stations did you plan to visit? And I understand you said 2. I don't know whether it's 2 per quarter because then I wouldn't question because I would have seen what you plan to do. The number wouldn't be a problem because maybe you might say you don't have money. But at least maybe let it come with a performance report so that if I see something in here, then I can refer. Then it will explain whatever is in here. Thank you, Chairperson.
Right. I think the consensus is we need more narrative speaking to the performance information. So we'll ask the Secretariat maybe just to provide us by next week, Wednesday, an update. We will then study it, and if need be, we can call you back. But I don't think, please address those issues. Right. Thank you very much to the Acting Secretary and his team for coming. We'll then await the updated first quarter report as well as the outstanding questions as well. Thank you very much. We'll immediately move to the Independent Police Investigative Directorate. We will allow a 2-minute swap. Thank you. A 2 minutes break, 2.5 minutes. Mr. Groenewald is not here, so let's make it 3.